Okay, so magandang umaga po sa lahat ng mga nag-a-attend ng webinar na to. I was given the task to make a presentation on for today's webinar, and I entitled it My Career in Genetics, Serving Society Through Science. So medyo ang gagawin ko na lang po para hindi masyadong formal ang talakayan. Ang gagawin ko po ay magkahalong Ingles at Tagalog para po mas ma-facilitate natin ang discussion. So ito pong first slide, I thought to present, ito yung sinasabing there's no traffic when you go the extra mile. Basta't po tayo, ito yung advice ko sa mga kabataan ngayon, basta't po ginagawa natin yung best natin, yung efforts natin, and we go beyond the confines of the laboratory. Kasi ang agam po, hindi lang dapat natatapos sa laboratorio at sa kaalaman. Kung hindi, dapat ay tatalakayin din natin, tutukuyin din ng mga natuklasan natin kung anong pangangailangan ng pamayanan or society. So, next. Nakita ko po ito and I thought this was very fitting kasi ang sabi dito that research shows that more than half of Americans prefer to work with female-led companies, illustrating that leadership norms are changing to help create cultures of care. So may isa pong katanungan kanina sa chat box. Iba ang mga kababaihang scientist for example, sa mga lalaki. I think one thing that we are able to bring to the laboratory, to our workplace, is our culture of care. Napansin ko po yan sa laboratorio pag ang kasama ko ay mga kabataang babae dahil mas madaling maintindihan ang kahalagahan ng pag-aalaga. Ang research interest na pipresent ko po ngayon, ito po yung tinatawag nating forensic genetics. It is the application of genetics to answer questions of interest to the legal system. So yung mga katanungan po ng ating mga abogado, ng ating mga huwes, ay maaari ding sagutin sa pamamagitan ng agham. Pwede po ito ay ayon o isang mga katanungan na nauukol sa krimen or sa mga civil action, katulad po ng mga paternity case or disaster victim identification. Lilimitahan ko lang po ang talakayan ngayon sa mga katanungan ukol sa krimen. Subalit maaari din natin itong talakayan sa question and answer kung meron po kayong mga tanong. Alright. Ito po, siguro marami sa inyo hindi na naabutan ito. Subalit nagsimula po ang laboratorio namin, ang DNA Analysis Laboratory, sa Natural Sciences Research Institute ng UP Diliman noong May 16, 1996. 25 years na po kami ngayon. This year is our 25th anniversary. Ito po ay sinimula ng aking mentor, si Dr. Saturnina Halos, isa ding babaeng scientist, noong the height of the Eileen Sarmenta case. Ito po kung maalala ninyo ay isang kaso ng panggagahasa. Si Eileen po ay isang estudyante ng UP Los Baños at kasama niya ang kaibigan niyang si Allen Gomez. Sila po ay natagpo ang patay noong June 1993. Sa pag-iimbestiga po at napatunayan na nagkasala sa krimen na ito ay ang dating Calauan Mayor na si Sanchez, Antonio Sanchez. Si Antonio Sanchez po eventually ay nakulong, subalit ang nangyari po ay wala pong agham na isama sa investigasyon. Kaya po ito ang naging impulse or initiative for Dr. Saturnina Halos to try to investigate or explore the possibility of using science, particularly forensic science, in criminal investigations. Kaya po nasimulan ang DNA Analysis Lab sa UP Diliman, kung saan po ako nagtatrabaho. Ang kahirapan po, ang kaso ni Eileen Sarmenta ay hindi lamang naiisa. Alam natin na sa ating kasaysayan na ating mga nagaganap sa Pilipinas at sa ibang bansa, marami din pong krimen, rape cases, sexual assault cases na nagaganap. Hindi lang ito nangyayari sa mga adult women, pero kasama na rin po ang mga bata. Kung kaya't sumisigaw tayo, maraming kabataan, hindi lang kabataan, maraming biktima ang sumisigaw, tulong. Tulungan nyo kami para magkaroon kami ng hustisya. Ang papel po ng science or forensic science ay bilang pagsagot sa tawag na ito ng ating ng mga biktima para gamitin na nagham, matulungan na makuha nila ang hustisya. So ito po ay isang paper na kalalabas lang. This is one of our papers that was published earlier this year. Sinite po namin yung report ng Philippine National Police. This is the 2018 incidents of sexual abuse by age, nakagrupo by age, in the Philippines seen by women and child protection units. Makikita po natin sa graph na to na from 0 years old, infants, up until 59 greater than 60 years old ang ages ng mga biktima, at ang pinakamarami ay nabibilang sa 13 to 15 years old. Hindi pa nagiging adults ang ating mga kabataang babae, marami dito ay babae, ay naaabuso na ng iba't ibang tao. Kadalasan ay mga lalaking kilala nila na nag-take advantage sa kanilang vulnerability. So, ang hiling ng mga biktima ay hustisya. Subalit kailangan din natin itong balansihin. So isang problema na tinatalakay ng forensic genetics ay pagtugon sa mga pangangailangan ng biktima to find justice for the victims by providing objective evidence in order to help the resolution of the case. Samantala, kung titingnan din natin yung kabilang side ng coin, there are two sides of a coin kung sasabihin man natin, makikita rin natin ang problema ng ating Philippine criminal justice system. Ito pong nakikita nyo dito, ito po ay litrato na kinunan sa Quezon City Jail. Ang city jails po, para sa mga hindi nakakaalam, ang city jails ay yung mga lugar na nakapreso ang mga taong hindi pa nakahatulan o wala pang conviction. Ito po ang mga taong may nagsampa ng kaso, nililitis, the case is ongoing sa korte, hindi pa napapatunayang guilty, subalit ganito na po ang sitwasyon ng kanilang pamumuhay habang inaantay ang resolution ng kaso. And you can see this is not a palengke, this is actually where they live. And they take turns sleeping kasi wala ng space sa loob ng bilangguan. Here you can see in the statistics, I put this on a year ago, but congested Philippine jails bursting at the seams. We have 414 jails nationwide, and we are over 300% ang congestion rate. All right. Ito po naman ay larawan sa Cebu Jail. Ito po nagkaroon ng inspeksyon, hindi ko po pinapakita ang kanilang mga mukha. Subalit sa Oplan Pakang Cebu, makikita natin isang bahagi lamang to ng City Jail ng Cebu. Malaki pa po ito. At nakita rin natin kung gaano karami ang nakakulong sa isang lugar. Okay. Isa pa pong concern na ina-address ng forensic DNA analysis is and something that we need to also consider is the new House bill that is being discussed now, na sinasabi na kailangan daw i-presume guilty ang drug suspects bago sila ma-prove na innocent. So parang nagbaliktad. Ang constitution po kasi natin sinasabing ang mga suspects are innocent before they should be presumed innocent until they are proven guilty. Subalit sa bagong batas na po ito, o bill na tinatalakay ngayon, sinasabing presume guilty, tapos saka mo na lang sabing innocent kung wala ka talagang ebidensya. So really, ang role po namin in forensic science is to actually find ways in which science could assist in in finding those evidences that could help confirm the guilt of an individual or negate a false accusation. Mahirap po yun, pero kayang gawin po yan na agam. And that is the role of forensic science. Ito po yung picture ngayon, tinatalakay din ang ukol sa death penalty. Ito po ang isang picture ng ating death chambers kung saan nilalagay ang preso. So one thing, and the reason why I discussed this is I wanted to show you ito po ang isang produkto ng siyensya. We don't have the time for me to go through the workflow of DNA testing. Subalit, makikita po dito, sabi, Rule on DNA Evidence effective October 15, 2007. So, noong pong panimula pa lamang ng aking pagtatrabaho sa UP, medyo nalagay na po sa kaisipan ko yung suliranin or yung challenge. Paano kung binibitay o pinapatay natin ng preso, paano kung nagkaroon tayo ng tinatawag nating wrongful conviction? Paano kung nagkamali? May nag-testify ng hindi tama o may ebidensyang mali ang interpretation? Paano kung nagkamali ang sistema? Ibig sabihin, magkakaroon tayo ng pagbitay ng isang taong inosente. So, since 1999, when I first got on the job and up until 2007, so that's almost 7 or 8 years of discussions with the Supreme Court, we were able to help the Supreme Court formulate this rule on DNA evidence. In fact, naiiba nga din po itong rule on DNA evidence sa mga general rules, judicial rules ng ating hukom sapagkat tumulong ko po kami sa pagsulat, yung mga scientists po, tumulong sa pagsulat ng rule on DNA evidence. At kung meron kayong pagkakataon, this is readily downloadable sa internet. Pag binasa niyo po ito, yung first part glossary pa lang, makikita ninyo na may nagsulat dyan na nakakaalam ng science. Kasi we made sure that the definitions, scientific definitions, were accurate or precise, referring to DNA, to biological samples, to evidence, etc. Kasi mahirap pong gumawa ng batas kung ang ating pagkakaintindi ay hindi natutugma sa siyensya or sa agham. So that's the first part on the rule. But I want you to focus on section 6, which is something that was very big that we were able to introduce or at least present to the Supreme Court and which they approved. Section 6, which is the post-conviction DNA test. Bago po itong rule na ito noong 2007, ang ating mga hukom po hindi bukas sa pagkakaroon ng post-conviction DNA testing because meron po silang tinatawag na finality of decision. Dapat daw pagka nahatulan na, tama na, huwag nang buksan uli kasi kawawa din naman yung biktima. Naintindihan natin. Subalit kung merong ebidensya sa katulad ng DNA na maaaring, ito tinatawag nila letter C, reversal or modification of the judgment of conviction, sana ay magamit natin. Dahil kung i-analyze itong biological sample na makakapag-prove na nagkaroon ng pagkakamali sa paglilitis ng tao, sana ay hindi siya mabitay or hindi siya makulong na panghabang buhay. So this was a very big thing, major step that we were able to do based on the knowledge and based on the research that was supported by DOST, supported by UP, that we used in the formulation on the rule on DNA evidence. Okay. So isa pa po, itong post-conviction DNA test, so sinabi ng hukom, pwede na kayo mag-post-conviction DNA testing. Subalit nagkaroon po tayo ng mga challenges sapagkat hindi agad nagkaroon ng aksyon ang ating pamahalan tungkol sa pagbubukas ng mga kaso ng mga taong nakiklaim na sila ay inosente. So nakita po namin na mahalaga ang contribution ng DNA evidence. So we tried to discuss the possibility, and we did try, and we're still doing this, to form what we call an Innocence Project Philippines Network. Para din ito rin po yung Innocence Project sa United States. Babasahin ko lang po ito. Ito pong description na ito ay ginawa po ng ating mga graduate students ng UP Diliman, Master of Bio. So it says here, the logo of the Innocence Project reflects the use of science in improving the justice system. The logo is primarily composed of a balance symbolizing justice and the Philippine legal system. The balance has a double helix as its stand and base, which illustrates the use of DNA evidence as a tool for the implementation of justice. The balance is embedded in a circular border, which represents the reversal of verdict for the wrongfully convicted, the exoneration of an innocent person. It also signifies continuity of effort done by the network in order to attain its objectives and the network's vision of expanding throughout the country. Imprinted horizontally across the border and the inner space is the name of the network. The logo was done in gray to depict the neutrality and independence of the network. So pina-emphasize po namin na kailangang neutral kasi po ang siyensya or agham is neutral. We are not pro-victim, neither are we pro-accused or pro-suspect. Tayo po, as forensic scientists, ang binibigyan natin ng importance or kahalagahan ay kung ano ang sinasabi sa atin ng agham. So we actually launched this way back in 2012, and you can see here the different volunteers that we were able to gather. These are law students. Ito na po yung plataforma na ginamit namin. People were interested with forensic DNA testing. Pero the people, when we talk about people, it doesn't only serve confined to the scientific profession. A lot of the law students were also interested in terms of understanding what forensic DNA testing is. So ginamit po namin yon para imbitahan silang maging kaakibat sa advokasiyang ito ng Innocence Project Philippines. You can see here some of the lawyers. These are pro bono lawyers. Yung po ang mahirap sa atin paminsan, nagsa-start tayo, wala kaming pondo, pero you know, pag humihingi ka naman, nagkakaroon naman, nahuhulog mula somewhere. And so we were able to get people, lawyers, providing their service pro bono. This is somebody from one of our companies who provided funding for us to be able to start. And then all of these young smiling faces are volunteers, law students of UP Diliman, law students of De La Salle University, and Ateneo de Davao. So way back in 2012, they were law students then. Now these young students are practicing lawyers and are still eager to provide the legal service that the Innocence Project requires. So noong pong 2012, tinulungan po namin, syempre bago sila makapunta at mag-interview, kailangan po nila maintindihan ng forensic DNA testing. So kami po as scientists, what we had to do was to run workshops for the law students so that they will understand what science is about. Bago namin sila isinalang, ito po ay sa loob na po ito ng National Penitentiary. Nasa loob po kami ng gym, ang hindi niyo po nakikita si Lolo at si Lolo, pero sila po ay mga preso, sentenced, many of them were sentenced to death or life imprisonment. Pero naging life imprisonment na kasi by 2012 we didn't have the death penalty. So nandun po kami sa gym at ang ginawa po namin ay hinati-hati namin ng tagdadalawa. These law students were doing the interviews on those cases that claim na sila po ay wrongfully convicted para malaman kung merong ebidensya para buksan ang kaso. Ganito po karami, paikot pa po yan yung amin na interview during the actual launch in Muntinlupa. Makikita niyo po that the interviews were done all throughout the day. At isa pa po magandang nangyari dito, the following year, kasi nagsimula 2012, the following year, nainganyo naman po namin ang mga science students. These are postgraduate students of UP Diliman, Institute of Biology. Now I think Ryan is working with NAST. Pero these are postgraduate students kasi ang nahirapan po kami, ako po personally, hindi ko po mabigay lahat yung time kasi ang daming ginagawa. Sabi ko, kailangan naman, ito po yung idea namin noon, kailangan naman na ang kabataan ang magtulong-tulong para itaguyod ang Innocence Project. So the law students were teaching the bio students about law and the bio students were teaching the law students about biology. And in their discussions, they were able to actually screen a lot of cases that were interviewed the previous year. Tapos kami po, lawyers, ako po is a scientist, etc. This is my husband who's a lawyer. Kami naman po, we provided the guidance. Kung ang tanong ay legal, ibato ko sa legal. Kung ang tanong ay bio, ibato sa akin. And then of course we recognize Ms. Cookie Jokno, who was the executive director of the Free Legal Assistance Group, who also was with us during the entire process. Kaso po, hindi naman ganun kadali. There are challenges for the Innocence Project Philippines. Insufficient yung structure ng infrastructure and programs. Dahil wala po kami makuhang pondo to support the initiative, we've had challenges in terms of pushing this through. I mean, we've had donations, pero you actually need to have an integral formal organization in order to do this continuously. Siyempre po, kami naman on our part as forensic scientists, naging challenge din po sa amin ang pag-validate, pagre-research ng mga pamamaraan upang maka-extract ng DNA sa mga napakatatanda ng mga samples. Many of the cases on death row and in the National Penitentiary, over 10-15 years na yung mga ebidensya. Yung iba hindi na nga namin makita. So pag nakita mo yan, possibly highly contaminated, possibly highly degraded, possibly a lot of different things. And so we had to really concentrate on validating those procedures that could help us generate the most informative DNA profile of those samples that are very limited. Okay. Tapos ang isa pa po ay talaga yung the physical absence the absence of physical evidence for post-conviction DNA testing. So marami po kaming nakita mga kaso potential pero wala namang kinuhang o wala namang kinolekta na sample at that time or immediately after the crime. And one limitation of forensic DNA testing, kailangan mo ng ebidensya. Kailangan mo ng biological sample. So pag wala po kaming makita, hindi po namin magawa. In fact, we alerted the Department of Health. There were some hospitals, we found I think about 2 or 3 at least well-documented, na ginagawa pala pag nakakuha ng ebidensya sa isang biktima ng panggagahasa, nilalagay kasi yun sa slide. Pagkatapos yung slide, dapat itinatago yun kasi ebidensya. Nung hinahanap na po namin yung ebidensya, hindi po makita kasi ang sabi sa amin ng administration ng mga ospital na yon ay nagtitipid sila. Pagkatapos makita under the microscope, hinuhugasan ng slide para magamit uli. Which is a big problem in the criminal justice system kasi una, nawala yung ebidensya at pangalawa, pag ginamit mo yung slide na yon sa pangalawang krimen, pwedeng questionin nyo ng defense na ay contaminated na yan, hindi yan sterile na sample, kaya't hindi yan pwedeng itugma o magamit sa korte. Which is, I don't know if you've had an opportunity to watch this film, Give Up Tomorrow. Ito po yung kwento ng Cebu 7. And that ito po si Paco Larrañaga and the 6 others who were convicted of kidnapping, raping, and killing I forgot the name of those 2 sisters. Pero po walang ebidensya, wala pong physical evidence na ginamit. The conviction relied heavily on the testimony of Davidson Rusha. They were convicted and sentenced to life imprisonment based on mere testimony that was not even corroborated. So I invite you, if you're interested in this topic, watch the film Give Up Tomorrow. Okay. Tapos po, isa naman po ngayon na kinaharap din namin ay yung mga problema ng death without trial. Ito po yung picture na pinublish ni Rafi Lerma sa front page ng Philippine Daily Inquirer, where a suspected drug user or drug peddler, etc., was killed, ito na, without trial, no day in court. So pinatay po siya. Supposedly, I think, I didn't follow the case too much, but he was killed by unknown people, unknown guys. And ang nangyayari po ngayon, hindi lang ganyan ang lumalabas. These are actually, ito po, nakikita yung iba na parang binubura na yung mukha. In some of them, the faces are still recognizable. In others, the faces are no longer recognizable, which means that DNA would have to come in order to identify the deceased. And again, we're handling very highly handled samples, which could be very challenging to process. Ito po, kung matatandaan nyo, no August 2018, ito po yung kwento ni Kian de los Santos. Yung pong kabataan, siya po ay allegedly nagbebenta ng drugs, pagkatapos allegedly nakipagbarilan doon sa mga magko-question sa kanya na police. However, in that particular case, ang lumabas ay merong CCTV camera at nakita na hindi siya nakikipagbarilan actually. He was actually taken to one corner and was killed execution style. In fact, when the autopsy came out, the bullets were actually not facing him. Parang nasa likod ng neck. So parang execution style killing, which did not support the narration or the narrative of the police that said that he was running and running with a gun. So this is the mother of Kian de los Santos. Nung pong time na yun, na August 2018, nahirapan din po kasi si Mommy ay actually nasa Middle East. She was one of our overseas Filipino workers working very hard to give an education to her son. Pero nung umuwi siya, she had to bury her own son. So nagkaroon lang po ito ng hustisya. I think nakulong na po yung mga police na pumatay kay Kian. I think it was last year. Only because there was forensic pathological results plus digital forensics that showed a different narrative from what was originally claimed. Wala pong DNA dito. CCTV at saka forensic pathology po ang ginamit. However, we know that there are more than 20,000 persons who have been killed since 2016, and the numbers are still increasing. So there's an absolute need for forensic science to assist in finding justice to those who have been killed. All right. On the other side, baliktarin natin uli yung coin. Balikan naman natin. So ma'am, yan ang pagtulong nyo potentially for wrongfully accused or wrongfully convicted. Paano naman yung mga biktima? So these are some of our research in sexual assault cases. Balikan natin yung other side of the coin. We know that sexual assault cases are very important types of cases for DNA testing. Bakit? Because in sexual assault cases or rape cases, merong close contact ang assailant at ang victim. And there is bound to have sample transfer. So pagka nagkaroon ng rape, natatransfer ang semen, natatransfer ang blood, perspiration, skin cells, sweat, hair, etc. Which provides us, provides forensic scientists evidence that could be used to help resolve the case. Ito po ay ito po yung mga ibang mga examples ng mga ebidensya na in-handle namin. This is an example of what we call a vaginal smear. So pagka po nagkaroon ng rape case, sinwab po yung biktima, pagkatapos po yung swab from the internal genitalia, sinespread po yan sa slide, tapos nilalagyan po ng stain para po hanapin yung sperms. These are the histological structure of sperm cells with the head and the tail. So this is microscopy. Nagkaroon po kami, and with collaboration with the Child Protection Unit, in-evaluate po namin ang potential contribution ng DNA in sexual assault investigations. So yung sinabi po natin, meron pong 39 cases kaming tinignan. Yung pong sperm detection under the microscope, yung kakasabi ko pa lang, yung positive sorry, hindi lumabas yung positive. Positive yan to, positive. There were 6 positive there were 6 cases where nakita yung sperm out of the 39. Tapos merong 21 negative of the 39. Yung 12, walang information based on the documentation we were studying. So wala kaming masabi. 18 of those cases, sabi ng biktima, nagkaroon ng internal ejaculation. So nasa narrative nila. 5 of those cases, wala naman daw. 16 cases, hindi nila naintindihan yung tanong. These were because the victims were so young, they did not understand what the question was. 28 said that they immediately washed after the incident. 8 said no, they didn't wash before the examination. 3 again did not understand what the question was. So pag tinignan niyo itong tatlong rows na to, it doesn't give us a very clear picture except for these 6 cases. Pero po, nang ginamitan namin ng DNA test targeting the male DNA or the Y chromosome, 20 of those cases were positive for male DNA. All of them were female children. So the fact that you have, these victims had the Y chromosome or the Y DNA in their internal genitalia actually confirm that there was sexual contact. 19 were negative, which doesn't say na hindi sila na-rape, pero walang DNA evidence. And there was nothing that says we don't know. So you could see the impact of forensic DNA testing in investigations of these types of cases. In fact, now we're talking with Dr. Raul de Ungria because through the project, and it has gone on for several years, we've realized that in the Philippines, we don't have what we call rape investigation kit or sexual assault investigation kit. Sa mga ospital po natin, kung ano na lang ang nandun ang ginagamit ng ating mga doktor para makakolekta ng samples sa victims. Kaya marami pong rape cases, wala pong ebidensyang nakukolekta, which is what we discussed earlier on. So we address again, we see the need sa pamayanan. Paano ka makakakuha ng ebidensya? Wala ka namang pangkuha. So ang sabi namin sa aming laboratorio, gawa natin ng pangkuha. So we're discussing with Dr. Raul de Ungria how to come up with a sexual assault investigation kit, which we have already validated. And in fact, this is a photo taken a year ago where makikita po natin, these are female doctors of the Child Protection Unit. This is the potential sexual assault investigation kit that we are now validating and testing for launch such that the Department of Health could use this and distribute it in all of the different hospitals. Yan po tinatawag natin ng culture of care. Ibig sabihin, nakita natin mayroong pagkukulang, hindi natin isasara ang ating mata, pipilitin natin i-address ang kakulangan para higit na makatulong sa pamayanan. All right. This is another paper. If anybody's interested, I thought it was good to share. This just was published a week or so ago, and it's available online. Bringing the science back into forensic science in death investigations in the Philippines during the COVID-19 pandemic. Kung matatandaan po ninyo, ito pong taon na to, bagong taon, meron tayong isang napakalaking kaso, hindi ko na po babanggitin ang pangalan, pero may isa pong napakalaking kaso involving a flight attendant na nakitang patay or namatay after a celebration, a New Year celebration with her friends. So nagkaroon po ng mga talakayan sa media, etc., etc. Pero nung pong binasa ko, hindi po ako nag-imbestiga dito. I'm not part of the forensic team. However, I was following the news very closely. And what I saw in this particular case is a lot of deficient protocols that could have led to the confusion and actually a lack of justice for the family of the victim and those who have been accused. So I invite you, you can read this particular paper that we've already sent and was published earlier this month. But I bring you to the conclusion. During this pandemic, it may be difficult to strike a balance between the requirements of public health, safety, and welfare, and the need to conduct a thorough and comprehensive investigation. Ang nangyari po kasi, bago inautopsy yung bangkay, kasi rape daw at pinatay, bago inautopsy yung bangkay, inimbalsa mo muna. Which means na pag inimbalsa mo yan, nawawala lahat yung ebidensya doon sa katawan ng biktima. Ang sabi, kaya inimbalsa mo for the protection of the pathologists or the people handling the body kasi may COVID. However, when I did investigations on the protocols followed by other countries, it is possible for investigators to collect samples without exposing themselves to SARS-CoV-2 by wearing the appropriate PPE and exercising the necessary precautions. Followed by other countries, meron naman. And because of the lapses in managing this case, numerous personnel hours were spent and costly resources were used. The conduct of at least 2, maybe 3 separate autopsies by 2 law enforcement agencies, the additional demands of processing fluids from embalmed bodies, yung pong ihi daw, meron sila nakuhang fluid from the urinary bladder, post-autopsy, post-embalming, during autopsy, post-embalming, you then question what those fluids are, inimbalsa mo na eh. The DNA test on tissues to remove doubts about their human source, and the cost of exhuming the victim's body, nailibing na. Pwede pa daw hukayin uli kasi baka may kulang na nakuha bago ilibing. Besides, this investigation places an unusual burden on the Philippine criminal justice system, already suffering from a massive backlog of cases, understaffing, and limited budgets. More importantly, have already caused pain and suffering to the victim's family, the suspects and their families, all of whom face a highly drawn-out investigation and a very public trial in social media. So kayo na po magbasa the rest of the paper. And in fact, I also invite you, there's another paper that we published earlier this year, an integrated system for forensic DNA testing of sexual assault in the Philippines. Based on our years of research in sexual assault investigations, there's already a proposed work plan, flow chart on how to handle evidence, how to collect evidence, and how to do DNA testing and interpret those evidence. Sana sundin na lang, i-adapt na lang para magawa ang tama sa ating investigations. So again, this paper is openly accessible online. I bring you to an article which we wrote. We wrote this so many years ago, but it says here that DNA analysis provides the most powerful tool for human identification, and therefore we must use it. I invite you to download this. This is also available online. It says here that, ano ba yung title? DNA testing of sexual assault cases, surmounting challenges in the Philippine setting. Kaya natin, we have the science, we have the scientists, we have the capability. Can we start using it? Also, we need to understand, that the recent advances in forensic DNA testing are now paving the way to reform our courts of law, such that we don't rely 100% or 96% on testimonial evidence. Testimonies are good. We rely on testimonies. But for as long as we have science that could confirm or potentially negate those testimonies, we need to use the science so that we decrease the possibilities of mistake. And lastly, this is my second to the last slide. Sana po, when I was thinking about this talk, feeling ko marami na po sa atin, lalo ng kabataan, medyo nawawalan na po tayo ng hope, medyo na kailan ba matatapos ang pandemic, kailan ba ako makakalabas ng bahay, kailan ba ako makakapasok, kailan ko ba makikita mga kaibigan ko, etc. But then, and some people could feel depressed or low based on these emotions. But I would encourage young students, tayo po, nakisali young daw, I would encourage all that to rely and trust on science, that through all this pandemic, we will see the end. And we will only see the end if we put science as part of our journey towards finding a solution to this affliction. Yun lang po at maraming salamat. Stay safe.